I'm Gene Grant here at the table with this week's Line Opinion panelists. Earlier in the show, we talked about the upcoming legislative session on one key issue that lawmakers will debate is New Mexico's driver's licenses. The state is currently out of compliance with the Federal Real ID Act, as you know. There was a lot of discussion in recent months about whether New Mexico driver's licenses would be accepted as a form of ID at airports, but our state and others are out of compliance with the federal law and were recently granted a 2-year extension by the Department of Homeland Security. Driver's licenses here in New Mexico will not be accepted at federal facilities like military bases and nuclear power plants and White Sands National Monument, as you might have read, but you can fly with your driver's license. And we're not alone. Half the states are still not in compliance with the Real ID Act, Tom. And when lawmakers take up this issue in the legislature, it will not be the first time we have just dealt with licenses, is it? Where are we on this, in this idea? How has Real ID mucked this whole conversation up?
Well, Real ID is basically a unicorn. It's whatever it is to anyone to support anybody's argument.
That's a great way to describe it.
When you look at what the feds did, they kicked the can down the road to let the next administration deal with it.
That's right.
In essence, they set up for a great showdown in a couple of years for Governor Martinez's final legislative session to oversee for this issue to still be alive and well with regards to undocumented immigrants getting licenses and Real ID, which, by the way, are two totally separate issues. I cannot get away from the fact is to see how people who want to tie these two issues together have made them so intertwined. All Real ID is, it's a paper trail. Right. And other states, including Colorado, have come up with some great solutions as far as how to address the issue of undocumented workers and getting driver's licenses. It's possible to have the two coexist.
Other states are doing it, like you said. Laura, what's interesting is Tom mentioned there are folks who are conflating this thing. Most notably, a very fascinating note from the governor's office just the other day, blaming Democrats in the legislature for getting us in the mess in the first place. I don't get how those two things got hooked together, but can you untangle that?
I couldn't. Politicking at best. I mean, basically, people are conflating it in order, for political expediency. They use it for every argument. But I agree, it's a different policy, and the feds have already given a 2-year, 2 years, basically kicked it down the road, as Tom said, for someone else to deal with it. Essentially, allowing. So we don't have an issue. You can still use your driver's licenses to get on planes now. Already, people can't use a driver's license to get onto certain military bases. But keep in mind that a lot of people who currently get onto military bases use their CAT cards. They have a federal ID that's already issued to them, separate from a passport. Many of them already have a passport. Their credentials are so people who use it regularly. So we're talking about people who, for whatever reason, have to go onto base, which is I think a smaller percentage than people think. They have to go on to base for XYZ reasons. You still have to check in at the front. You still have to do everything that you would as a civilian going onto a military base. But I think this issue of oh my God, it's going to keep people from doing their normal jobs. If they already access a military base, they probably have the credential to be able to do it. Having worked for the federal government at one point, I know that's the case. So the issue, I think, comes down to, in the last legislative session, there was a compromise bill that passed the Senate. It was very similar to what we've seen in Utah and other states, and got nowhere in the House.
Go ahead and describe that bill, because it's a very interesting distinction there, what you're talking about.
Well, it created basically a different type of driver's license so that undocumented immigrants could use that as almost like a driving privilege card. So they would still be able to comply with their driving requirements. They would still be able to get insurance. It wasn't an issue of if they are undocumented, they can't get anything. And I think one of the things that's been used in this debate has been the fraud issue. And I mean, there is fraud potentially in a lot of these situations, but there's already fraud taking place. And there's a whole, staff attorneys at the Taxation Revenue Department that deal with prosecuting people who do have show evidence of fraud. This is with or without any policy changes. And I think they work on this already. So this issue of it, continuing to be a fraudulent issue, I think is a non-issue. It's a smoke and mirrors type of argument.
Interesting. Rob, can this idea of two separate IDs really have a chance here? Because again, as Laura and Tom mentioned, this has come up and other states are using it. It seems like a reasonable middle ground solution.
It could, but the idea of a 2-tier driver's license, the resistance is going to come more, I think, from immigrant rights groups, The Catholic Church, the Catholic bishops have already said they don't want a two-tiered driver's license system. I went on the internet last night and took a look at, there's 12 states now, it's growing, who issue driver's privilege cards. And almost in every single case I could find, it said very distinctly on the top of the driver's license, not valid for identification purposes or not valid for federal identification, et cetera. The Utah example, which a lot of people point to, I don't have a problem with it, but a lot of people on the left do because it's a different color. If you have a driver's license, if you have a driver's privilege card, it's a different color, and they say that singles out people who are in the country on an undocumented basis. So this is not just going to be, the governor's trying to drive this political train. There's going to be a political train being driven in the opposite direction.
Interesting. Plus, we have an election year. I mentioned earlier in the broadcast as well. Do people want to have on their backs the stamp of they either supported or didn't support, depending on what the situation is? So this vote could be very interesting for other reasons beyond the practicalities that we're trying to get at here, isn't it?
My sense, though, is that it's probably going to get kicked down the can for another year or so for the reasons that Laura properly indicated, that there's really not a lot of people that are being affected right now. We've got until 2018, and the governor's office and the legislators are like my students. They will wait until there's the actual deadline to comply. And there's a lot of posturing going on. So picking up on Rob's point, you've either got the driver's license plus model, so you've got the real ID license and then all the other licenses, or you've got the driving privilege card. And the way that issue gets framed becomes really important. I think one of the things that's interesting to me is the way the governor is framing this issue, that if the goal is to license drivers, including undocumented immigrants, then why do things like require tax returns and other things like that? Why mix the issues as opposed to really focusing on the public policy issue, which is making sure that everybody who's on the road has some sort of license?
That's right. That's right. Interesting. I'm going back to the beginning of all this. We have been down this road now for so many. In 30 days, I got to think at some point the public's going to say, you all need to figure this out because we have other things to talk about here. And we've been doing this like on a merry-go-round for the last 6 years or 7 years for gosh sake.
Yeah, I think success looks like identifying real ID and as its own issue, and have the legislators approve that. The other issue of the driver's license issue, because that is the driver's license, as we've talked about, has nothing to do with the documentation that the feds are requiring, and just separate the two issues so that way people can get it passed, so people don't have to worry about their drivers, about the other issue and stuff. But it's an easy fix. But politics always makes it fun to mix.
I like the use of the word easy. Milan Simonich, columnist for the Santa Fe Reporter, New Mexican, excuse me. He's been here at this table a few times. Interesting column this week. Say, look, the governor's just toying with us here, basically. That there's other issues on the table, and this is a huge smokescreen. How long can that last? It's you know what I mean? I say again, the public's going to want to say, look, fix this license thing, and let's move on. We've just got to get on with this,
Well, I mean, I agree with what he said, and I actually applaud him for being basically very direct and calling her out.
Very
on the fact
direct.
that this is a smokescreen. You're essentially, making this a big issue to try to take away attention from some of the other things she's been criticized about. How long can they drag this on? I think they're going to try to drag it on as long as they can. But again, for most people out there, I'm not sure that this is the issue. Like, this is the most important issue for people. And there's so many other issues that are more important. We have huge crime problems. There's a lot of issues within the budget that they could be addressing by increasing the judiciary's funding, by increasing the public defender's funding, making sure people have, there's enough money and infrastructure set up for our criminal justice system. And so I think there's just a lot of other priorities, and I think they're going to get criticized if they continue to push this.
Interesting point. Thank you all. Good Friday night. Appreciate it. I'm Gene Grant. Join us on the web at NewMexicoInFocus.org as the line panelists talk about a controversial parody campaign that focuses on child poverty. And thanks for joining us this week for New Mexico in Focus. And as always, we appreciate your time and effort to stay informed and engaged. We'll see you next week in Focus. Get a preview of what's coming up on the next New Mexico in Focus. It's easy. Sign up for our weekly email at NewMexicoInFocus.org.